to be emergencies and needed urgent consideration. And the Speaker is saying that he was urged as Speaker of Parliament to recall the House, which has been adjourned sine die a day earlier on 30th July 2024. But it looks as if the Speaker is rejecting this. Yes. And the Speaker is rejecting this.
Yes, so Lantam, so under Article 112, the Speaker was supposed to recall the House within 7 days. And this request was put before the Speaker a day after the House had gone on recess. And the majority argues that there are other pressing matters, urgent matters that must be addressed. Speaker says he disagrees with that assertion that these matters are urgent. 1, 2, he says Parliament chamber is unavailable because it's undergoing some renovation. The conference center is equally not conducive for Parliament to use. So by his own discretion, even though per Article 112 he's supposed to recall Parliament within 7 days, he settled on September 3.
September 3 is when the Speaker would rather recall Parliament.
Yes.
So it's not on the dates that the majority leader and the majority... He got some signatures, right?
Yes, of course.
Once you a number of MPs, and he sent it, and according to the standing orders, that is allowed. So the Speaker has to recall Parliament. Exactly. But the Speaker is saying that he's rejecting the request to call Parliament because of some of these issues. Okay, let's stay a while on this. Let's go to the phone line and speak to the Member of Parliament for Sefia Kontomra. He's Deputy Majority Whip, Majority Chief Whip as well. Honorable Alex Tete, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Honorable, thank you very much for joining us here on the board in Star.
You're welcome, sir.
Yes. I mean, the majority wanted the House to be recalled, and so they got the signatures. They took it to the Speaker according to the standing orders and the Constitution. The Speaker was supposed to recall Parliament, but the Speaker is rejecting the request by the majority for Parliament to sit within 7 days under Article 112. And he's saying that there are logistical constraints, among other things. What do you make of this development and this position taken by the Speaker?
First of all, let me say hi to your cherished listeners and thank you for the opportunity. As you are already mentioned, Article 112, Clause 3 actually gives members of Parliament 15% of the total number. If there is a need for us to do some business in the House, we can recall the House through the request from Parliament or Speaker. And the majority side, we actually put up our signatures to actually let the Speaker call the House on the 7 sitting working days. But yesterday, to my surprise, we saw a letter on our platform that the Speaker is rather calling for the House on the 3rd of September, which I think is unfair, simply because Speaker, even though he's the CEO of the House, but per the Constitution requirement, Speaker has to adhere to the requirement of the Constitution. So I actually don't agree with the Speaker explanation that there is a renovation. We have the dome where we swear the president, the current president, in the second term. And that's one we can use it for the business in the House. So I don't know whether he has a discussion with our leader, Affinio Market, which I'm not privy to any information. So what I can say this morning is that, I mean, sometimes as Speaker, as I said, he's the CEO of the House, but this one, I disagree with his suggestion or his whether he has just requested the House to come on 3rd September.
You talk about the dome being there and that possibly could be a place that you could use to do the parliamentary sitting. But according to the Speaker, that place is not very conducive for you to come and do the business that you want to do.
We used it after the swearing when the COVID was in 2019, 2020. We used that one to transact business in the chamber, in the House. So I don't think what Speaker is saying is right. Even though, like I said, he's the CEO, we can use it, and you people can send your team to come and actually verify that what I'm saying, whether it is true or not. And I have not seen any renovation work ongoing in the chamber.
Now, there's also the other thing that the Speaker talks about, the matters that you say are an emergency. He doesn't consider it as an emergency, and he doesn't think that the petition that you have brought, getting the signatures to bring, because these things are emergency, are really necessary. And these are things that can be looked at, later on when Parliament resumes. So why do you consider those items an emergency?
Before we go on recess, we met Speaker and he prioritized some of the bills, like EPA bills, the Environmental Protection Bill, the Ghana Boundary Commission Bill. That's the words of the Speaker. And he wanted us even to finish these bills before we go on recess. Unfortunately, we couldn't. So, and we have the vetting of the judges that have been nominated to the Supreme Court. You know, before our recess, the judges came to Parliament to spend the whole day, and without the minority actually refused for us to vet them. And we have this outstanding issue. So if Speaker is saying that the request is not an urgent, the Constitution actually spells out whatever we need to do as Parliament. We in the majority side think we have an urgent business to transact, and we have used the constitutional instrument to trigger this particular request. So I don't think Speaker can base on his own, assumption that whatever we are saying is not true. Per the Constitution, we have the right and we have the to actually request the House to resume sitting. So I don't know. Like I was saying, we disagree with whatever has come out. But as a CEO, what he has actually put his words, and we cannot do anything.
But what do you make of the Speaker's assertion that what you've done is an abuse of the process? Yes, you have the rights by the standing orders. You can do that in the Constitution. You can do that, but you are abusing the process.
We are not. I know before the reason, like I said, we actually have a word or have a talk with the Speaker to actually let us go on recess around Friday before the Tuesday that he actually adjourned the House. And he said he's traveling. And even though the two deputy speakers are not around to actually preside over the House, per our new standing order, a senior member can be nominated to preside over the House. If Speaker is not around and the deputies are not around, but Speaker actually refuses to accept that request too. And that is why we have put up the constitutional requirement that we need to recall the House to finish this business that I've mentioned to you. The Environmental Protection Bill, the Ghana Boundary Commission Bill, we all know what is actually happening in the various borders of our neighboring countries. And that is why we need to actually pass this particular bill for Ghana to actually know its boundaries and the other countries that we share with. So I think Speaker is not being fair to the majority side.
So, as a majority side, you sent in this request. Constitutionally, you have the right to do so. Per the standing orders of Parliament, you have the right to do so. But Speaker has rejected it. What would be the next line of action for you? What would be the way forward for you?
Well, we have a leader, which is Lantam. Yesterday, we saw this on our platform through our chief whip. Let's wait for the day and see what the leader will actually put it before us.
But is there any possibility that you would protest this position by the Speaker and try and compel him to say, let you have this meeting in the Dome, like you've suggested?
My brother, we have a leader. We have not seen any request for leadership meeting. So let's wait and see the subsequent day and see what we can do. And if you call, I can explain it to you.
All right, very well. But before I let you go, how's your constituency? Are you in the constituency now?
Yeah, I just came yesterday from the constituency.
And how's the constituency looking?
By His grace of God and what I have done for the constituency, I think the people of Akontoma will reward me for the third time.
Oh, based on what you've done, you believe that they will reward you for the third time. What have you done?
If we come to in terms of employment, in terms of developmental projects, I've done a lot. So far, so good. During my tenure as a member of Parliament, out of our 57 kilometers of road, we have tarred about 45 kilometers. The 12 kilometers, I think that another contractor has come on with. And the other roads network are being tackled by some of the contractors. In terms of employment, teaching, cocoa board, and other areas, I have employed about 600 permanent jobs in the consultancy. Those who cannot continue with their education, those who want to learn, apprenticeship and other things, I have employed about 900 people. And if you go to the consultancy, I have a mark there, and people actually appreciate what I have done so far for the past 7.5 years. And I know our consumer people are going to reward me for the third time.
Right. And with regard to representing them in Parliament, bringing to fore issues that are of concern to your constituents, how well have you done that? How well have you represented them, apart from all the things that you've done physically in the constituency?
And coming to Parliament for the just 7 years to be a deputy majority whip, I think it's in the right direction. And I've done a marvelous work in Parliament. I'm one type of parliamentary which doesn't absent himself from business, and you can attest to it through your reps in Parliament. And I've already been in touch with my constituency. Every 2 weeks I have been there when Parliament is in session, and I can tell you that I'm with them, and they're also with me. And at the end of the day, through my work, God and the people of our Contomra will reward me.
All right. Very well. Honorable Tete Jonobua, I'm grateful that you've spoken to us here on the Morning Star.
Thank you too, my brother.
All right. Honorable Alex Tete Jonobua is the Member of Parliament for Seshi Akontomra, and he's Deputy Majority Chief Whip in Parliament. He says they don't agree with the Speaker. They don't agree with the assertions of the Speaker. And for the Speaker to say that he's not going to call or recall Parliament like he's supposed to, if you look at the standing orders and the Constitution, perhaps leadership will meet and then they'll decide the next line of action. But as it stands now, the Speaker of Parliament says that he's not going to recall Parliament. In fact, if you look at the release by the Speaker of Parliament, he goes on, to address quite a number of issues in that particular release that he puts out there. First of all, he addresses the decision to adjourn the House sine die. He looks at the standing orders, he looks at the constitutional provision and all of that, and then he looks at the request itself to recall the House. And he even talks about, some accusations that have been leveled against him, that he's an absentee Speaker of Parliament and is more interested in his travels rather than sitting, in Parliament and all of that. He addresses all of these things, and then he finally comes and talks about the reasons why he will not recall Parliament because of the renovation work that is going on. But the Deputy Whip talks about the dome.
Yes.
Which they used to swear in, the president and all of that it can be used. There's nothing wrong there. So if the conference center is under renovation and the chamber itself is under some sort of renovation, the dome is there. Why can't the dome be used?
Well, so Lantam, let me address the case of the adjournment.
Yes.
The indefinite adjournment or the adjournment sine die, as they put it. Did they come as a surprise to many, especially the majority side? Yes, it did. What was being considered? The $250 million facility. It's a World Bank facility, IDA facility, for some works in the power sector. Now, when that particular report from the Finance Committee was tabled, it had consensus at the committee level. So the Finance Committee members from both sides had agreed that the loan facility must be approved. Until it got to the turn of Muttaka Mubarak, Mohammed, MP for Asawase, and immediate past minority chief whip, who flagged an allocation in there, a $94 million allocation for consultancy.
Consultancy.
Yes. And so then many people started asking questions on the floor that what specifically was that allocation meant for? What went into the heading consultancy? What are the details? Those details were not forthcoming. So when the speaker eventually put the question, even though it had been agreed unanimously at the committee level that
they will
it must be
through.
passed, because it was supported by Adongo, supported by Richard the Champion as well.
And even on the debates before Muttaka rose, generally from both minority and majority side, all of them were, speaking in the direction of let's pass this and let's go.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the question was put, and then the nose had it.
Yeah, the nose had it.
Surprisingly. And so the majority side then prayed the speaker to put the question again.
Yeah.
The speaker, of course, was.
I think someone wanted to call for a division.
In fact, that was what speaker said. That are you calling for division? Because if a division had been called, the majority side did not have the numbers.
Yeah. At that time.
So the results would have been the same. Yeah. That the motion would have been lost, and so therefore, the prayer to speaker was that how about you put the question again? In the meantime, the majority side was marshalling the numbers because there were some within the premises of Parliament, but they were not in the chamber.
Yeah, so they could have, marshaled them to get them into the chamber so that they can answer the question again.
Great. And so after back and forth, Speaker then reiterated that he was not going to leave the seat to anybody. First, his first deputy was not in the country, Joseph Osei-Usu, but the assurance was that, and he captures this in his release, the assurance was that he was going to return that day. Joe Wise was going to return that day. So the Speaker could have left the seat to his first deputy.
That's Joe Wise. But he was not in the country.
He was not in the country. The second deputy was also not in the country.
Isiama was in there.
Isiama was also not in the country. Yeah. But then when they met, a suggestion was made that they should elect somebody, a member of Parliament, to preside over proceedings in the absence of the Speaker.
And it's
the
allowed.
Speaker, it's allowed. And it's happened. Aklesius Avoka, just before the House went on recess, got the opportunity to be Speaker. In the past, Kitty Amon had gotten the opportunity to be Speaker. So it's allowed. But Speaker, in this release, of course, and it's actually a letter that he wrote, talks about the fact that given what happened during the e-levy back and forth, and the fact that there were physical exchanges, he was not willing, and engaging the mood and the temperature in the House, he was not willing to leave anybody in his seat, not even his deputies. Not talk about picking a member of Parliament to preside. The story might be different. So, and he was not willing to open Parliament up to that public ridicule again, he explained. And then he explains in this letter again that even the assurance that Joe Wise was going to come back into the country, when Joe Wise came, he had adjourned sitting, Sinidai. So if he had adjourned sitting before Joe Wise flew back into the country, how was that going to be practically possible? Now, what we also noticed that day was that there were attempts to vet the two Supreme Court Justice nominees.
Yes.
Alexander Kwame Afenyomakin actually went there to ensure that, I'm talking about majority leader, things were done appropriately. As at the time the majority leader rushed back to the chamber, Speaker had adjourned. So he could not even get the opportunity. Usually what happens is that before they adjourn, majority leader, minority leader, you are given the opportunity to give
you stand, you catch the
address.
speaker's eye, and you talk.
No, in fact, you come with even a prepared speech. And it's formalized. You are allowed to read your speech. Minority leader reads his speech. Majority leader will read the speech. Speaker will read his speech. And then that particular meeting formally comes to an end. The last adjournment, it didn't happen. The immediate one too, it didn't happen. Speaker will just say that whatever speech you have to deliver, give it to the table office. It will be captured in the Hansard. And that's it. So no verbal
speech given.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was what Alexander Kwame Afenyomakin in his address to the media was talking about, that it's unconventional. At least the adjournment should have been done as has always been done per convention.
Yeah.
Now, Speaker's argument is that Parliament had committed itself to another activity in the USA, which required the presence of the immediate past majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, the current majority leader himself, and many others. Some had taken the lead already. So he had informed everybody that sitting was not going to go past 4 p.m. But he had actually added 1 extra hour. So sitting went past 5 p.m. So it was when this back and forth came relative to the IDA loan that he said, yes, they had called for division, but he would defer that decision to when sitting resumes. And he had indicated that he was willing to recall Parliament in September. And that's exactly what he's done, regardless of the fact that per this process that had been triggered under Article 112, Speaker had to recall Parliament within 7 days. And we've been here before.
Yes.
Speaker, before this last meeting, was compelled to recall Parliament to consider some appointees whose approval had been outstanding for a while. Yes, that was done. Speaker's argument is that if he doesn't use his discretion, then we will have the House sitting in perpetuity, because all it will require is for you to gather the needed signatures
and bring
and Speaker will have no discretion. Within 7 days, Parliament will have to return. That will affect the work of members of Parliament in their constituencies, especially given the times we find ourselves in.
Yeah.
You just spoke to Alex Junebo Atete.
Yeah. He just arrived to his constituency.
Exactly.
He's talking about
what he needs to do.
Yeah, what he has already done for the constituency. And
So imagine the House had been recalled, he would not have been able to go to his constituency. And there are many members of parliament who are fighting for their lives. They are fighting to return. And so I think the caucus will meet. Majority leader will then look at the next line of action. But the only option available now is to go to the Supreme Court. Yes, that's the only option available for interpretation of the discretion of the speaker.
Yeah.
Because the speaker just doesn't talk about his discretion. He talks about the fact that there are logistical challenges, and there are challenges with even venue for this particular recall. But the new standing orders equally make it possible for virtual sittings.
Yeah.
Yes, the new standing orders.
You can do Zoom sitting.
But the point is, that must be tied to the chamber.
And the deputy whip also talks about
the dome that is available.
That's available.
Yes, the dome that's available. So these options can equally be explored. But the sense I get from the response from the speaker is that the things that have been tabled as urgent could have been done before the House went on recess. The 250 million IDA loan, if the majority had the numbers on the floor,
yeah, they could have done it.
Exactly, it should have been passed because it had the buy-in of the minority from the committee level.
It wouldn't have been a problem.
It wouldn't have been a problem.
Yeah.
The bills that have been tabled are at best a second reading, meaning those bills have not gone through the consideration stage and then get to the third reading and pass it.
So they are not really an emergency.
Exactly. So if you recall the House for a day, these cannot be
done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So probably the main issue is the loan.
The main issue is the loan. And then the
vetting.
The vetting of the judges. The judges.
Yes.
And we all know the position of the speaker on this. The speaker obviously believes that something must be done to tie the hands of presidents. Presidents plural. I'm not limiting it to Akufo-Addo.
Yeah.
Relative to the number of justices you can send to the Supreme Court. And he mentioned that when this communication came from the presidency, that the House will have to enact a law that will place a ceiling or a cap.
And that's where the MP for what's the name?
Sehui
also, had a spat with the president, and he was walked out of parliament.
Exactly.
By the speaker because he said it doesn't line the speaker's mouth to be saying those things.
Those things, yes. So that gives you an indication as to what the position of the speaker is on this. But of course, like I said, I was talking about the Supreme Court being an option. There's a legal vacation, right? But of course,
But even with the Supreme Court, even if it goes to the Supreme Court, how fast is the Supreme Court going to determine such an issue?
Before September.
We are in August already, and September 3 is not too far off. So
exactly.
Maybe the other option will just be to wait till the September 3 and then just try and get whatever they need to get done very, very quickly, because there's no guarantee that if you go to the Supreme Court, which is on legal vacation now, because the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, and most of the high courts, except for the vacation courts, and the district and circuit courts are all, on legal vacation. So it makes it. So it will be interesting to see what decision the minority is going to take. The majority, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, through its leader.
Through its leader in this regard.
Yeah, but of course, it's become a blessing in disguise. You heard Alex Atete. He's in his constituency going to campaign.
Yeah, he's in his constituency.
He's been in parliament for 3 terms, but the seat is not a seat that you can say comfortably belongs to one party. Yes. It's a seat that, of course, we've had a conversation with him on the same platform where the NDC in the constituency was accusing him of busing people, doing the registration, busing people from a different area to his constituency to go and register because he feels his seat is under threat. Yes, so these are the things that MPs ought to do when they are on these vacations or recess, especially at the nick of time before the December 7 elections. And so there's a love-hate relationship between the majority and the speaker.
Yeah, this speaker has been one of the, I don't know, he's not been your conventional kind of speaker. When you look at all the speakers that we've had, from who? Alajete to
Bejina Sechi
Hughes, to Bamford Addo, to Doa Jaho, to Michael Kwe,
then to Alban
Bagbing. Alban Bagbing stands out.
Yeah.
Among all of them, he really, really, really stands out.
That's true. That's true.
I mean, if you remember the days of, Bamford Addo, things were relatively smooth.
Very.
And the nature of this parliament too is an issue because typically we've always had a clear majority side. There has always been a clear majority side, and so it's easy for a lot of. But with this particular parliament, which there is no clear majority side.
Yes.
I mean, there's no majority in this parliament.
Yes.
There's a majority.
There's a majority group,
but there's no majority because all sides have 137, and there's an independent candidate.
That's true.
Who is doing business with the majority side. So there's a majority group. So it makes doing business in this parliament very, very peculiar, and it will be interesting to see if we are ever going to see this kind of parliament again. I doubt it. I believe that in the next election there probably will be a majority.
There will be a majority. Whoever is winning parliament will win by majority. Whoever is losing parliament will lose by majority.
For it to be split down the middle again like this, it won't happen. I don't think we'll have it again.
But then the majority will not be that. It will not be that huge.
It will not be too huge.
I think maximum 15, but that's workable. NDC has once worked with 13.
When you look at the
the balance,
and in terms of the polling that is
maximum 15, unless there is a change of wave. After every
wave of serious change below where people want.
People
too may vote skirt and blouse. People may vote,
that's a possibility.
Skirt and all of that.
But in
at the end of the day, we'll have to just wait and see.
In 2020, we had a lot of skirt and blouse from the central region to be specific. I doubt that will be repeated. I doubt that will be repeated.
Per your reading of the political landscape.
Exactly. That's one. Two, like I said, NDC has worked with 13, 13 majority before. 13. Yes. And it worked.
But it's still a majority. It's still a significant majority.
Yes. But then if you look at the fact that you are picking more than 50% of your ministers and deputy ministers from the House, 13, you can only pray and hope that the minority doesn't become intransigent on almost every matter. That becomes a challenge. Now, there is equally a challenge, and that is from Fomena. Now, as we speak, an MPP is unable to hold its primaries in Fomena, because it is waiting for its prodigal son to return
to the MPP.
If the prodigal,
but has he not returned?
He has
he not
in
returned?
Principle,
because
but not on paper. If he returns on paper, there will be a by-election, and he will lose his position as the second deputy speaker, because you cannot have first deputy and second deputy from the same party. It cannot happen. The second deputy portfolio will go to NDC. If Andrew Esiama pronounces today that he's returned to NDC, he will lose his position as second deputy.
Parliamentary rules and
per the Constitution. Yes.
Per the Constitution, if you are a member of Parliament and then you cross carpet, is it not called cross carpet?
Yeah, you cross carpet.
You cross carpet. You lose the seat, and there has to be a by-election, which you can then contest again.
But even a by-election, just 1 month from today, that will not happen, because 3 months to an election, the by-election will not happen. So it's no more about the by-election.
So that's a very curious case, right? So now he can't officially on paper declare himself a member of the NPP.
No,
otherwise he loses his seat.
So
does it mean that going into this 2020 election he will contest as an independent candidate again? Perhaps with the backing of the NPP, but on paper he's an independent candidate.
The NPP,
because how is he going to navigate that?
The NPP doesn't want him to contest as an independent candidate.
They want him to contest as an NPP candidate.
Good.
But how
that's how come? Good. So that's why he's waiting. He's waiting now until it's time for filing. Then he can then file on a ticket of the NPP, because the NPP has given him all the waivers. The party is allowed to do that. The requirement that you must be a member of the party in good standing for 4 years and what have you.
The party can decide
to waive all that.
Party's council and all of that can decide.
Yes, waive all that. And then he goes. And then hope and pray that Bagben doesn't go the way of Okwe. Okwe stripped him of his seat when he decided to go independent. Many people have forgotten this. Before the 2020 elections, Professor Mike Okwe, the speaker, declared the seat vacant, the Fomena seat vacant, because he had filed as an independent candidate.
That's true.
But just that the government of the day then they did not work with it. Otherwise, he would have lost his salary and all the emolument that he was entitled to. And then he became the rejected stone.
He went independent
and then won.
And then he won.
And then the party had to go and beg and do all those things that the party had to do.
We all remember what happened.
Pay off his loans and what have you, like in Japan told us. A pay off the loan of the chairman of the constituency for the chairman to resign because that was the demand that Andrew Esiama made, that the chairman, through whom he had to go independent, had to resign, and he resigned, and then he decided to caucus with the NPP, to give the NPP that majority that it needed. So, as something we should all look out for, the phenomena and the dynamics they're in, and how Andrew Esiama can seize being a second deputy speaker.
You know, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, but even when the filing opens, right?
Yeah.
There is still time, because you remain a member of parliament until the 7th of January, when the new crop of members of parliament are sworn in.
Yes.
Right. So when filing happens, I mean, you're still a member of parliament. So if your seat is declared vacant, it means you cease to represent the people.
Yes.
Of Fomena.
You cease to represent the people of Fomena.
And then you cease to become second deputy speaker because
you have joined a political
party.
You've
joined a political party and your seat has been declared vacant. So you cease.
Yes.
So
it's not even more about the seat. It's about the fact that you have joined NPP, which has the first deputy speaker seat. It's not allowed that one party will have first and second.
Per the standing orders of parliament.
And then per the constitution. Per the constitution as well.
Yes.
So initially, the NDC could have actually nominated somebody to take over Esiama's position. But there was a gentleman's agreement that was reached.
Yeah, so they allowed
that
him to.
Since the party had lost the speakership, the sensible thing to do was to give the second slot to Fomena, who would then caucus with them one way or the other. Otherwise, NDC could have nominated somebody else. It would have gone through the same elections as that of Abambabin, and the speaker and then the second deputy speaker slot could have been with the NDC.
Yeah, it could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see when he picks up, if he does pick up the nomination forms.
Especially on the ticket of NPP.
Yes.
To end this.
And he goes on the ticket of
NPP.
Yes. What will happen, or what has to happen?
Yes. See, the best solution is for him to remain independent, but with the backing of the MPP, he goes, picks the form,
That's what I'm thinking.
And then he wins.
That's what I'm thinking.
But you see, that's where the challenge is. When you come to parliament and you are independent, that counts as
independent.
Yes.
But you can still caucus with the MPP. And everybody knows that you are, a sympathizer of the MPP.
So
that's on paper.
That's you
operating
on the premise that the MPP will still be in power.
I'm coming. Whether or not they are in power.
I'm coming.
Whether or not, even if they go into opposition.
When they go into opposition, you caucus with them. You get nothing. That's the point. It's immaterial. So, for instance, whichever party is winning, if it's not MPP, wins with, say, 15 majority.
Yeah.
You caucusing with the minority doesn't change anything.
Yeah, but you can still
are no longer in demand. Nobody even cares how you caucus.
They have to show that you are still loyal to the party.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Joe Wise did that.
Yeah.
And Joe Wise did that.
I mean, Joe Wise. Joe Wise went independent, and then the MPP didn't have, the majority, but he was still doing business with the minority side then, which was the MPP.
That's true.
So you see,
Samia went there and decided not to caucus with anybody
side, depending on where she
was going to caucus based on her conscience.
Yeah.
So whenever controversial issues came,
she'll go here.
He looked at which side aligns with the conscience, and then she does that. Yes, but how did that work out for her? She lost her seat after just one term, right? Now, NDC took the seat from her because NDC expected her to caucus with them. They could have protected her. She didn't, and then they went for the seat from her in Jomoro. Yes. Now, the other dynamic is going NPP. I doubt the speaker will declare his seat vacant.
You doubt Alban Bagbin will do what Michael Quay did?
Yes, for a by-election, because that will be 3 months. 3 months
you can't do a by-election.
There won't be a by-election.
But he can still declare the seat vacant.
But NDC will then want to suggest or nominate somebody to be a second deputy speaker.
Mm-hmm.
To be a second deputy speaker.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when that happens, there's no longer any independent member of parliament. So automatically, the second deputy speaker will have to be somebody from NDC.
Yeah.
It cannot be somebody from MPP.
Mm-hmm.
You get the point?
Mm-hmm.
So the dynamics are quite interesting. The point I'm making is that
and if
the constitution,
and if the seat is declared vacant, then it means
there's no
majority.
Independent. Yes, there's no
majority.
There's no majority. Exactly. So for the next 3 months,
there will be no
MPP is going to have it
group
very difficult
in parliament
because it will be through the middle.
Yeah.
I think the most pragmatic thing for MPP to do is to allow
him to go independent. Yeah, and caucus with them later.
Yes, but there are people in the constituency who disagree. They think once he broke ranks,
he must join.
He's not a member of the party.
And if he's not a member of the party, they come back. The party's resources should not back him, and they should field someone.
It's quite. Many people have not paid attention to this, but it's a dicey political dilemma for the NPP.
It will be interesting to see how the MPP operates. So now and there's a new party chair. I'm sure the old party chairman still wields a certain level of influence within the constituency.
He's been sacked. He's no longer a member.
Or
he's no longer the party chairman. He's a member of the party.
That's what I'm saying.
He's a member of the party.
So he may still wield a certain kind of influence there.
I'm sure he's learned his lesson.
And the hard way. Yeah, but
even the president went there to say that they shouldn't vote for Isiama. You remember the president went there and said he cannot. Don't vote for him.
Yeah,
he's left the party. I cannot work with him.
And now he's won.
And he won, and then he became the kingmaker.
It's interesting how all of these things happen. You remember the case of Joe Wise too?
Oh yeah.
You know what happened with Joe Wise?
That's true.
When he was also rejected and decided to go independent for Bekwai.
Yes.
And then we all saw what happened after that.
Yes.
Before he joined the party again.
That's true. That's true. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see what happens. You're still listening to The Morning Star. We'll take a short break here. When we return, there's more. Stay tuned.